Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals about the fact that influencers don't sell the basics because the basics aren't sexy, and two, they would run out of content, and three, they probably don't even know the basics. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so, and if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I'd appreciate it so much. And I think this kind of comes back to the point I make about fake natties pretty much dominating fitness. Fake natties are dominating fitness, and they absolutely do. And a lot of them, their results really do just come from a syringe and some decent genetics. And I'm not saying a lot of them don't train hard, a lot of them don't train smart, but there's a whole lot of them who they really promote just a lot of excessive things, a lot of different movements that aren't needed. Minor irrelevant variations on isolation movements. And I think people need to remember when it comes to even things like isolation movements, any tweak or variation you're doing is probably done just for your own joint comfort angles and for you to get a better mind muscle connection. And that's going to vary a lot from person to person. But they'll obsess over minutia that is largely irrelevant, or even over minutia of how much they think an individual head of a muscle fiber gets worked. In a variety of head-to-head comparisons, and thinking that every one of these heads have to be isolated in order to even get them to grow, and it's just simply not reality. It's not true. That's not even how it works. But I think the biggest point is they can't have new content and put stuff out there if they just stick to the basics, because really for the majority of people, in fact really almost everyone listening in a fitness audience, very very few are trying to step on a bodybuilding stage. And I'm not saying bodybuilding contest prep that you're not going to want to develop every plane and angle. I'm not saying that. Okay, absolutely. Having a perfect separation between your rear delt and your side delt could make or break you in a bodybuilding show. Yeah, of course, right? Your chest delt tie-ins could absolutely make or break you in a bodybuilding stage. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. But do you really think the average guy out there who's on no drugs or very, very small amounts of drugs is not getting contest shredded? Who's not going to be 5% body fat where you're going to see all that? Who's just trying to get big and strong and have a good physique? They don't need any of that. It's an absolute waste of their time. And realistically, I think Martin Burkham really kind of clowned the industry when he put his stuff out, because the dude shows up having a physique that I think 99% of the population of dudes would kill to have. And he's like, yeah, I do like 6 exercises. I push progressive overload, and I do intermittent fasting with high protein. Okay, that was his approach. That was his approach, and it worked. And he had a great physique. And did he have a pro bodybuilder quality physique? No. Absolutely not. But when you look at what he looked like relative to what people's goals were, I think he demonstrates what happens when you just build a really good strength base. Okay, you build a really good strength base, and then you just get really lean. And I think that's what people are forgetting. Most of what you're thinking of as a great physique for people is just getting real lean. Like, you start talking 10% body fat or anything under. If you've built a good muscle base, most dudes are going to look pretty dang good. Okay? They're going to look pretty good by most standards. And you start looking at what Martin was doing, and I remember that. He's like, squat, bench, deadlift, weighted chins, overhead press. He's like, occasionally I do some rows or some calves or a tricep extension. But those ladders were like secondary stuff. He's like, yeah, if I got a little time left into the workout, you want to do a couple sets of calves or a couple sets of triceps. Yeah, no big deal. I do that sometimes. Okay? And he was training 3 days a week doing all that. And I think, again, you look at that, and it's like, if people just did the basic exercises with enough intensity and volume and just got stronger at them, they're forgetting the bench press and the overhead press do build triceps. They're forgetting chin-ups and pull-ups do build biceps. I'm not saying you can't do some extra. Okay, we're not saying that. But they're going to build most of that. All those movements, throw an overhead press in. You ever seen a guy with a really strong overhead press who doesn't have pretty good delts? Am I saying they're going to win bodybuilding shows? No. But just objectively, go look at any guy out there who's reasonably lean with a real strong overhead press. They still have pretty dang good delts as a general rule. Show me any guy who's got a strong squat and deadlift who doesn't have good legs. Now, granted, some of them might not have calves. So if people simply did these, and what if they just got ran to get fit? What if they did some GPP, some conditioning work? Just the basics. If people just did some athletic stuff for fitness, got real strong, at a few basic lifts, 4, 5, 6, 7 lifts. Okay? And I'm not saying, hey, look, if you need to do some tricep extensions, do some tricep extensions. I'm not even saying that. Okay, but fitness people can't promote this because they can't keep selling a brand with that. Oh, they really have to overcomplicate what they're doing for people. And again, my complexity is pretty high for my competitive athletes. But for the average Joe who's just like, I just want to be strong, jacked, fit, and look good, feel good, doesn't need to be that complicated. They could do that. They could get in to do some GPP, do some general physical preparedness. What do we mean GPP? Weighted carries, sled work, some jumping, some throwing. Go out and run, go out and jog, right? Very, very simple stuff. Okay? Very simple stuff. And that's why I put out that dad bod strength standard. That's its own separate topic. And I said that to most guys, I'm like, look, you can bench 3 plates, squat 4 plates, deadlift 5 plates, do at least 10 bodyweight pull-ups, have a respectable 5K time, a respectable 5K time, anything near 25 minutes. You're going to be pretty dang fit. You're going to look pretty dang good. You're going to have the best body when you walk in a room, almost anywhere you go. You'll look good at the beach, right? You'll get compliments. Like everyone's going to know you're fit and in shape, and you're going to feel good. You're going to feel good. You're going to be healthy. But again, people can't sell that level of simplicity, okay? Because they're marketing that they have all these magical special secrets, and their special secret really is just picking their parents carefully in a syringe. That's pretty much their magic secret. But they can't sell you that. They would if they could.